From Magnum PI to Blue Bloods and more, actor Tom Selleck has ascended to heights he never imagined.
For years, Tom Selleck seemed unstoppable. But now a farewell many hoped would never come is suddenly becoming reality. Behind the headlines lies a story filled with uncertainty, difficult choices, and questions that continue to divide fans. Some believe circumstances forced his hand, while others insist there is far more happening behind the scenes than anyone realizes. As reactions grow stronger and speculation spreads, one mystery remains at the center of it all. So, what heartbreaking reason is truly pushing Tom Selleck to say goodbye? When a television era ends, for years, Tom Selleck appeared to be one of television's most dependable figures, a familiar presence whose steady performances seemed immune to the uncertainty that often follows long Hollywood careers. Then came the announcement that changed the conversation. After more than a decade leading Blue Bloods, the actor was confronting the end of the series that had become deeply connected to his public identity. For many viewers, it felt less like the conclusion of a television show and more like the closing of a chapter they had visited every week for years. The reaction was immediate. Fans who had followed the Reagan family through countless Friday nights struggled to imagine the series without its commanding center. As New York Police Commissioner Frank Reagan, Selleck had become more than a character. He represented stability, responsibility, and a sense of tradition that many viewers believed was increasingly rare on television. His calm authority anchored family dinners, workplace conflicts, and personal struggles, creating a character who felt larger than the screen itself. What made the situation more emotional was the fact that the farewell did not arrive after years of declining interest. Discussions surrounding the show's future had sparked debate, and many supporters believed there was still more story left to tell. That belief added another layer of uncertainty. Some viewers questioned whether the ending had arrived too soon. Others wondered if broader industry decisions had shaped the outcome more than audience demand. While no simple answer emerged, the questions only intensified the attention surrounding the show's final chapter. For Selleck, the moment carried particular weight. Frank Reagan was not simply another role on a long list of credits. Over 15 years and hundreds of episodes, the character became one of the defining figures of his later career. Audiences watched him guide a fictional family through crises, disagreements, and changing times. In many ways, the role allowed him to connect with a new generation that knew him less from Magnum PI and more from Blue Bloods. Walking away from that connection was never going to feel ordinary. As news of the ending spread, social media filled with disappointment, reflection, and speculation. Longtime viewers shared memories of favorite scenes and weekly traditions built around the series. Others focused on Selleck himself, questioning what this turning point might mean for his future. The uncertainty created a deeper mystery beneath the headlines. Was this simply the natural ending of a successful show, or the beginning of a larger transition in the life of one of television's most recognizable stars? What remained clear was that the goodbye carried far more significance than a routine cancellation. It marked the end of a relationship between an actor, a character, and an audience that had grown together for years. Yet beneath the emotion and public reaction, an even bigger question was beginning to emerge, one that would shape everything that followed. The answer remained elusive, encouraging closer examination of the forces, choices, and circumstances surrounding this unexpected farewell today alone. What happens when a television legend quietly steps away from the role that defined a generation? Is this truly the end of Frank Reagan's story, or is something far more complicated unfolding behind closed doors? What aren't viewers being told about Tom Selleck's final decision? Let's unravel the truth. Refusing to walk away. Quietly. As the reality of Blue Bloods coming to an end settled in, many people assumed Tom Selleck was preparing to step away without resistance. From the outside, the situation appeared straightforward. The series had enjoyed a remarkable run. The actor was well into his later years, and retirement seemed like the natural next step. Yet the closer observers looked, the more complicated the story became. Rather than sounding ready to leave, Selleck repeatedly gave the impression of someone who believed there was still unfinished work ahead. That perspective surprised many fans. After all, few television dramas manage to remain on the air for more than a decade, and even fewer maintain a loyal audience throughout that journey. Blue Bloods had accomplished exactly that. Week after week, viewers continued returning to the Reagan family, drawn by its blend of law enforcement stories, family dynamics, and traditional values. For Selleck, those numbers mattered because they reflected something important. In his view, the audience had not abandoned the show. If anything, he believed its connection with viewers remained as strong as ever. His public comments revealed a sense of frustration beneath his usual calm demeanor. Rather than speaking like someone eager to close a chapter, he often emphasized that there were still stories worth telling. He expressed confidence in the series and suggested that its popularity remained significant. Those remarks immediately fueled discussion among fans who wondered whether the ending was truly inevitable. If the audience was still engaged and the cast remained committed, why did it feel as though the story was being brought to a halt before reaching its natural conclusion? The debate only grew stronger as viewers revisited Selleck's statements. Some interpreted his words as a simple expression of gratitude for a project he loved deeply. Others sensed something more revealing. They believed his comments reflected genuine disappointment that the journey was ending at all. While there was no public accusation and no dramatic confrontation, the contrast between his optimism about the show's future and the reality of its conclusion created an undeniable tension. At the center of that tension was Selleck's enduring passion for acting. Despite decades in the entertainment industry, he never spoke like someone exhausted by the work. On the contrary, he often described how much he still enjoyed performing, even while acknowledging that the job had become physically more demanding with age. That detail made the situation even more emotional. This was not the story of a man announcing that he had lost interest. It was the story of someone who still appeared deeply invested in the craft that had defined much of his life. As speculation continued, one question lingered over every discussion. Was this farewell happening because Tom Selleck was finally ready to leave, or because circumstances had moved faster than he wanted? No clear answer emerged, but the uncertainty transformed a routine television ending into something far more compelling. What seemed at first like a simple goodbye was beginning to reveal deeper questions about legacy, timing, and whether one of television's most recognizable figures truly believed his story was finished. Was this truly his decision, or something happening that no one is ready to admit? Why did someone who believed the story still had life left suddenly find himself pushed toward the exit? And what wasn't being said during those final moments? Keep watching. The cost behind the spotlight. From the outside, Tom Selleck's career appeared remarkably stable. For decades, he remained one of television's most recognizable faces, successfully navigating an industry known for constant change. Yet behind the success of Blue Bloods and the admiration of millions, a quieter reality was unfolding. As the series continued year after year, the demands required to keep it alive never disappeared. Instead, they gradually grew heavier, creating pressures that most viewers never saw. Behind every episode stood challenges hidden from public view entirely, and rarely discussed openly by anyone involved publicly. By the time Blue Bloods reached its later seasons, Selleck had spent more than 50 years in the entertainment industry. Long filming days, early call times, location shoots, promotional appearances, and the responsibility of carrying a major television drama had become part of his routine. While audiences saw Frank Reagan delivering calm leadership on screen, the effort required to maintain that performance remained largely hidden behind the cameras. The character looked steady and controlled, But sustaining that image demanded discipline every single day. It required consistency, endurance, and commitment far beyond what viewers could easily imagine. Aging affects everyone, including actors whose careers depend on remaining active in demanding environments. Selleck never denied that getting older changed certain aspects of the job. He openly acknowledged that the work had become more difficult than it once was. Yet what made his situation unusual was that those challenges never seemed to weaken his enthusiasm. Even as the years advanced, he continued expressing genuine appreciation for acting and a desire to keep working. That contradiction sat at the center of his farewell. The work was becoming harder, but the passion remained strong, creating a far more complicated story than retirement alone could explain. There were sacrifices as well. Maintaining a television career required more than memorizing lines and appearing on set. It demanded time, energy, and a willingness to place professional responsibilities above many moments. Over the years, Selleck worked to balance those obligations with life away from Hollywood, including time with family and responsibilities on his ranch. Every season required that balance to be maintained again, forcing him to divide attention between the career he loved and the life he valued deeply. Some observers viewed the ending of Blue Bloods as evidence that age had finally caught up with the actor. Others saw a different picture, pointing to his enthusiasm and arguing that he still had more to offer. Neither interpretation explained the situation. Instead, a portrait emerged of a man confronting time while holding tightly to work he loved. That struggle added emotional weight to the goodbye and suggested that the reason behind it might be more personal than many realized. What really happens when the demands behind the camera begin to outweigh the man in front of it? How long can someone carry a role that keeps taking more than it gives? And what truth was never meant to surface at this stage? Let's find out. A legacy too big to leave. Long before questions about retirement, goodbyes, or final chapters entered the conversation, Tom Selleck had already built a career that few actors could match. Yet, as the uncertainty surrounding Blue Bloods continued to grow, many fans found themselves looking backward as much as forward. The more they reflected on what he might be leaving behind, the more significant the moment became. This was not simply about the ending of a television show, it was about the possibility that one of the industry's most enduring figures was stepping away from a lifetime of accomplishments that had shaped generations of viewers. For many people, the journey began with Magnum P.Y. During the 1980s, Selleck transformed into a household name through his portrayal of Thomas Magnum, the sharp-witted private investigator living in Hawaii. The role turned him into an international star and established an image that would follow him for decades. Audiences were drawn to his confidence, humor, and unmistakable screen presence. What appeared effortless on television was the result of years spent working through smaller roles, commercials, and disappointments before finally receiving the opportunity that changed everything. Yet Magnum was only one chapter of a much larger story. Over the years, Selleck proved that he could move between genres while maintaining the qualities that made audiences trust him. Whether appearing in television dramas, movies, or memorable guest roles, he developed a reputation for consistency that became increasingly rare in Hollywood. Even brief appearances left lasting impressions, demonstrating an ability to connect with viewers regardless of the size of the role. Perhaps even more fascinating are the opportunities that never happened. Few actors can point to career crossroads as dramatic as the ones Selleck encountered. He was famously considered for the role of Indiana Jones before scheduling conflicts connected to Magnum P.Y. prevented it from becoming a reality. The part eventually went to Harrison Ford, creating one of cinema's most iconic characters. Looking back, the decision remains one of Hollywood's most intriguing what-if stories. Yet Selleck never appeared bitter about the outcome. Instead, he often viewed honoring his commitment to Magnum as the right choice. There was also another surprising opportunity that slipped away. At one point, he was offered the lead role in Baywatch, a decision that could have sent his career in an entirely different direction. Once again, he chose another path. These moments revealed something important about the choices that shaped his legacy. Success did not come from chasing every opportunity. It came from remaining committed to the direction he believed was right. As conversations about his future intensified, these milestones gained new meaning. Fans were not simply reacting to the possible end of Blue Bloods. They were reflecting on decades of memories tied to a performer who had remained a constant presence through changing eras of television. Every role, every decision, and every unexpected turn had contributed to a legacy that seemed far larger than any single show. That reality created a powerful question lingering beneath the farewell. If someone had spent a lifetime building such an extraordinary body of work, could any goodbye ever feel complete? Or was this only the beginning of another unexpected chapter? How does a man walk away from a legacy that reshaped television history? What really happens when an icon steps out of the spotlight after defining roles that changed everything? And is there more behind this goodbye that no one is saying yet? Stay with us. Behind success came quiet sacrifice. By the time Tom Selleck became one of the most recognizable faces in television, many people saw only the rewards that came with success. They saw the hit shows, the fame, the awards, and the career that had lasted far longer than most actors could ever hope to achieve. What remained largely hidden, however, were the personal sacrifices required to build and maintain that success. As questions about his future continued to grow, attention slowly shifted toward a less visible side of the story, one that revealed the cost of balancing public achievement with private priorities. Fame brought opportunities that transformed Selleck's life, but it also brought constant attention. From the height of Magnum P.I. to his later success on Blue Bloods, public interest followed him almost everywhere. For decades, audiences wanted to know more about the man behind the characters. While many celebrities embrace that spotlight completely, Selleck often appears determined to keep certain parts of his life protected. He built a reputation for being relatively private, despite living in one of the world's most public professions. That decision was not accidental. Throughout his career, he frequently placed importance on family and personal stability. While Hollywood often rewards constant visibility and endless ambition, Selleck sometimes appeared willing to move in a different direction. Rather than chasing every opportunity that crossed his path, he made choices based on factors beyond professional advancement alone. Those decisions may have surprised some industry observers, but they revealed what mattered most to him away from the cameras. One of the clearest examples involved opportunities that could have dramatically altered his career. Over the years, he encountered major roles that many actors would have accepted immediately. Yet some of those opportunities were declined or lost because of commitments he had already made. His decision to honor existing obligations rather than abandon them for potentially larger rewards became a defining part of his reputation. To some, that choice demonstrated loyalty and integrity. To others, it represented career risks that few stars would willingly take. The tension between professional success and personal values continued throughout much of his life. Maintaining a long-running acting career demanded enormous amounts of time and energy. Yet he also worked to preserve meaningful relationships and a sense of normalcy. That balancing act became increasingly difficult as his fame expanded. Every major success brought new expectations, new responsibilities, and new pressures that extended far beyond the television screen. As people reflected on the possibility of Selleck stepping away from a major chapter of his career, these sacrifices began to look different. The conversation was no longer focused solely on what he had achieved. It also centered on what he had chosen to protect. Some observers saw a man who carefully guarded his family life despite enormous professional demands. Others wondered whether those priorities had influenced important career decisions more than the public ever realized. Whatever the answer may be, one reality became impossible to ignore. The story of Tom Selleck was never simply about fame. It was also about the choices made behind the scenes, the opportunities accepted or rejected, and the personal values that guided him through decades of success. Those quieter decisions added a deeper emotional layer to his farewell, and hinted that his legacy extended far beyond the roles audiences remembered most. What happens when fame starts demanding more than it ever promised? Does he choose family over opportunity, or sacrifice everything for the spotlight? Behind the cameras, a decision was made that would quietly reshape everything he thought would last forever, and nothing stayed the same. Where? Silence began, calling louder. As speculation continued surrounding Tom Selleck's future, attention gradually shifted away from television studios and Hollywood headlines toward a very different setting. Far from the bright lights and demanding schedules that had defined much of his career, there was another place that seemed to hold increasing importance in his life. Nestled in California, his ranch had become more than a piece of property. It had evolved into a personal refuge, a place where the pace of life moved differently, and where fame carried far less weight than responsibility, routine, and simple daily work. For years, audiences primarily knew Selleck through the characters he portrayed on screen. Whether as Thomas Magnum or Frank Reagan, he appeared in environments shaped by scripts, cameras, and production schedules. Yet away from those fictional worlds, he was often drawn towards something far quieter. His ranch offered an escape from the constant demands of the entertainment industry and provided a lifestyle that reflected a different side of his personality. There, success was not measured by ratings, reviews, or public attention. Instead, it was measured through physical effort, practical tasks, and time spent outdoors. What made this aspect of his life particularly significant was how often he spoke about it. While many celebrities describe luxury vacations or glamorous hobbies, Selleck frequently expressed genuine enjoyment in ranch work itself. He found satisfaction in maintaining roads, clearing brush, and handling the many responsibilities that came with managing a large property. To outsiders, those tasks might seem exhausting. To him, they appeared to provide a sense of purpose that contrasted sharply with the pressures of Hollywood. The deeper one looks into this chapter of his life, the more revealing it becomes. Ranch work represented more than a pastime, independence, and a connection to something tangible. Unlike the entertainment industry, where success can change with public tastes and corporate decisions, the responsibilities waiting on the ranch remained constant. The work needed to be done, regardless of headlines or ratings. That stability may help explain why the property occupied such an important place in his life. Family also played a central role in that environment. Away from production schedules and public scrutiny, the ranch provided opportunities for more meaningful time with those closest to him. As years passed and priorities naturally evolved, that quieter existence seemed increasingly valuable. The possibility of spending more time with his wife, Jilly Mack, and remaining close to family carried a different kind of appeal than the excitement of another television season. This reality introduced a new perspective into the conversation about his goodbye. Some observers focused entirely on the end of Blue Bloods and the challenges of aging in a demanding profession. Others wondered whether the explanation might be simpler. Perhaps the farewell was not solely about what he was leaving behind. Perhaps it was also about what he was moving toward. The attraction of a slower, more grounded lifestyle appeared stronger than ever. No definitive answer emerged, but the ranch revealed something important about Selleck's state of mind. Beneath the public discussion surrounding career endings and future plans stood a man who seemed increasingly comfortable outside the spotlight. That possibility added a new layer to the mystery and suggested that the next chapter of his life might be defined less by Hollywood and more by the peace he had quietly cultivated for years. What really pulls a man from global fame into silence, and what begins to change when the cameras disappear? Is it peace he is searching for, or something deeper hidden in the land itself? And who might be waiting in the quiet that follows? Stay glued, writing the final chapter himself. As the discussion surrounding Tom Selleck's future continued to intensify, another development quietly emerged that seemed to reveal how he was approaching this turning point in his life. While many people focused on the end of Blue Bloods and speculated about retirement, Selleck appeared to be doing something different. Rather than allowing others to define his story, he began taking steps to tell it in his own words. That decision offered a revealing glimpse into how he viewed both his past and the uncertain road ahead. For decades, audiences knew him through the characters he portrayed. They watched him become Thomas Magnum, Frank Reagan, and numerous other memorable figures. Yet, despite his visibility, much of his personal journey remained largely unexplored. Over the years, countless articles, interviews, and public discussions attempted to explain his career, his choices, and his success. Some accounts captured parts of the truth. Others simplified a life that was far more complicated than many people realized. As he entered this new phase, Selleck seemed increasingly interested in setting the record straight. That desire became particularly clear through his memoir, You Never Know. More than a collection of career highlights, the project represented an opportunity to reflect on decades of experiences that shaped both the actor and the man behind the public image. The title itself suggested a recurring theme that had followed him throughout his life. Many of his biggest successes emerged from unexpected circumstances, while some of the opportunities that appeared most promising never happened at all. Looking back, his career seemed less like a carefully planned journey and more like a series of unpredictable turns that somehow led to lasting success. The memoir also served another purpose. It allowed him to revisit stories that had often been reduced to headlines or brief anecdotes. Moments that once seemed straightforward gained new context when viewed through the lens of experience. Decisions involving career opportunities, personal priorities, and professional commitments could finally be explained from his perspective rather than interpreted by outsiders. For someone who spent much of his life in the public eye, that opportunity carried unusual significance. As anticipation surrounding the book grew, so did curiosity about what readers might discover. Many expected reflections on his rise to fame, his years on Magnum, P1, and his long run on Blue Bloods. Others hoped for insights into friendships, challenges, and pivotal moments that had remained largely private. The growing interest demonstrated that audiences were still deeply invested in his story, even as questions about retirement continued to dominate conversations. This created an interesting contradiction. On one hand, the end of Blue Bloods appeared to signal the closing of a major chapter. On the other, Selleck was actively opening a new avenue through which he could continue engaging with the public. Rather than disappearing from view, he seemed to be transitioning into a different role, one focused less on performance and more on reflection. That shift suggested something important about the nature of his goodbye. It may have marked the end of one era, but it did not necessarily signal a complete departure. Instead, it hinted that Tom Selleck was finding a new way to preserve his legacy, ensuring that his story would continue long after the cameras stopped rolling. As his television chapter closes, what story is he really preparing to tell next, and why now? Is this about truth, legacy, or control over his own narrative? And what revelations are still hidden beneath decades of fame that no one has heard yet? Stay tuned. Final question: Behind Goodbye. As the final episodes of Blue Bloods approached and discussions about Tom Selleck's future intensified, a powerful assumption quickly took hold. Many people viewed the end of the series as the beginning of retirement. After decades in television and film, it seemed reasonable to believe that one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars was finally preparing to step away. Yet the closer observers listened to Selleck's own words, the less certain that conclusion appeared. Throughout the conversation surrounding the show's ending, Selleck rarely sounded like someone eager to stop working. While he openly acknowledged the realities that come with age and the demands of a long career, he also continued expressing an interest in acting. Rather than speaking about retirement as a definite plan, he often focused on his appreciation for the work itself. That distinction introduced an important question. Was the end of Blue Bloods truly the end of his professional journey, or merely the end of one chapter? That uncertainty became intriguing when fans considered the possibilities that still remained. Over the years, Selleck had repeatedly demonstrated an ability to reinvent himself. From Magnum, P-Wine to Blue Bloods, he successfully transitioned between different eras of television while maintaining a loyal audience. At the same time, alternative interpretations continued to emerge. Some observers argued that his growing connection to family life and his California ranch suggested a desire for a quieter future. Others pointed to his memoir and ongoing public engagement as evidence that he remained eager to share his experiences and stay connected with audiences. Neither perspective fully explained the situation. Instead, they highlighted the complexity of a man standing between two worlds. What makes this moment so compelling is that it refuses to fit into a simple narrative. The ending of Blue Bloods represents a major turning point. It closes the door on Frank Reagan and concludes a role that became central to Selleck's later career. Yet closing one door does not automatically mean every door has closed. As the farewell continues to unfold, the larger mystery remains unresolved. The evidence points in different directions, leaving room for hope. Perhaps Tom Selleck is saying goodbye to a beloved character and a remarkable era of television. Or perhaps he is preparing for a new chapter that has not yet revealed itself. The answer may determine whether this farewell marks an ending or an unexpected beginning. What do you think? Is Tom Selleck truly stepping away because of age and pressure? Or is something deeper behind this farewell? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.